Orphaned alien girl falls asleep on a human traveler's lap. Nobody could imagine what happened next. The passenger ship moved quietly through deep space, its long body glowing softly as it followed a fixed travel lane between distant systems. Inside, most people were asleep or lost in their own thoughts. Long trips made everyone tired. The lights were dim and the sound of the engines was like slow breathing. A human traveler sat alone near the window row. His clothes were worn but clean, and his bag rested under his feet. He had no special rank, no uniform, and no clear destination that anyone knew. He was just another traveler moving from one place to another. He watched the stars slide past the glass, white lines stretching and bending as the ship moved faster than any world below could imagine. Across the passenger area, a small figure sat curled on the floor between two empty seats. She was not human. She was small, smaller than most children, with pale skin that reflected the ship lights in a strange way. Her eyes were large and dark, and her clothes were torn and stained. She hugged her knees close to her chest and did not look at anyone. People noticed her, then looked away. Some whispered. Some frowned. No one approached her. The ship had rules about unregistered passengers, but no one wanted to deal with it during a long jump. Security officers walked past her twice. Each time she lowered her head and stayed still. Their scanners showed errors when pointed at her, and that made them uncomfortable. The human traveler noticed her the moment he sat down. At first, he thought she was asleep. Then he saw her eyes move, watching everything without lifting her head. She looked afraid but quiet, like an animal that had learned silence was safer than sound. Time passed slowly. The ship announced that it would enter extended travel mode. Most lights dimmed further. Seats adjusted automatically. Soft barriers rose between rows to reduce noise. The small alien girl shifted as the ship changed speed. Her body swayed, and she almost fell sideways. She caught herself, but her breathing became fast and uneven. The human traveler stood up without thinking. He walked slowly, making sure not to scare her. When he stopped a short distance away, he lowered himself to her level. He did not speak right away. He only waited. She glanced up at him for half a second, then looked down again. "It's okay," he said softly. His voice was calm, slow, and low. "The ship is just sleeping for a while." She did not answer. The ship shook lightly as it settled into its long jump. The girl's body tensed. Her small hands trembled. Without warning, she leaned forward, lost her balance, and fell against the human traveler's leg. He froze. For a moment she stayed there, pressed against him, breathing hard. Then, very slowly, she shifted again and rested her head on his lap. Her body relaxed as if something inside her had finally stopped fighting. She fell asleep. The human traveler did not move. Around them, several passengers noticed. A few gasped quietly. One woman shook her head. A man whispered that it was dangerous. Another said the girl might be using him as a shield. A security officer approached, his boots silent on the floor. "Sir," the officer said quietly, "you should move away from the child." The traveler looked up. "She's sleeping. That species is unknown," the officer replied. "We cannot confirm safety." The traveler looked back down at the girl. Her breathing was slow now. Her face, when relaxed, looked even younger. "She's tired," he said, "and scared. That doesn't make her harmless." "No," the traveler said, "but it makes her alone." The officer hesitated. The ship's rules were clear, but something about the scene made him pause. The girl did not react to his presence. Her grip on the traveler's clothing tightened slightly. like she feared being pulled away even in sleep. "I'll report this," the officer said finally. "Do not leave." "I wasn't planning to," the traveler replied. The officer walked away. Minutes passed, then hours. The ship moved deeper into the jump lane. External signals faded. Internal systems switched to low power mode. Most passengers were fully asleep now. The girl did not wake. The traveler stayed still, even when his leg went numb. He adjusted his breathing so it stayed slow and steady. He did not know why he cared this much. He had seen strange things across the stars, but something about this child felt different. A faint hum passed through the air. The ship's central system adjusted its internal balance. Sensors recalibrated. Then, without warning, a silent alert appeared deep within the ship's systems. Unrecognized biological field detected. The system tried to analyze it. It failed. It tried again. The field spread slowly, not outward, but inward, folding into itself. The ship's systems had no clear way to describe it. Power readings remained stable. Structural stress was normal. Life support was unaffected. But something was wrong. The system marked the source. Passenger Section C, Seat Row 14. The sleeping child. Deep in the ship's control center, a small indicator light changed color. The ship AI paused one of its background tasks. It reviewed old data, ancient warnings buried deep in forgotten archives, records from early space travel, stories dismissed as myths. It compared them to the current readings. A match probability appeared. Low confidence, high risk. The AI did not wake the crew. It only adjusted internal containment protocols by a fraction too small for any human to notice. Back in the passenger area, the traveler shifted his free hand slightly. The girl made a small sound in her sleep and moved closer. Her skin was warm. Too warm. A soft glow flickered beneath her collarbone, hidden under cloth. It pulsed once, then stopped. The traveler did not see it. The ship continued forward, carrying them all toward a future none of them understood. And somewhere deep within the vessel, the AI updated a silent internal log. Potential anomaly confirmed. Observation ongoing. The small cabin smelled faintly of metal and recycled air. The human traveler carried the alien girl carefully, avoiding the eyes of the curious crew outside. He had managed to move them to a private room after the ship's security reluctantly stepped back. The door sealed quietly behind them, leaving only the soft hum of the ship's systems. The girl still rested on his lap, her breathing slow and even, but her small hands clung tightly to his sleeve, as if letting go would mean falling into danger. The traveler sat in the corner, holding her like a shield against the unknown. He did not speak at first, watching her chest rise and fall. He noticed her thin arms, the small scratches on her face, and the tiny patch of dirt in her hair. She looked like she had been running for a long time. Her species was not like anything he had seen before. She was fragile, but there was a hidden strength in her posture. Even asleep, she seemed alert to every sound. A soft knock came at the cabin door. A medical officer peeked inside, scanning the room with her device. The traveler raised his hand, telling her to wait. The girl's eyes flickered open briefly, dark and wide. She shivered when she saw the uniform. She tried to move back, curling into the traveler's arms. "She's scared," the traveler said quietly. "Please just wait." The officer hesitated. She had dealt with alien patients before, but none like this. Her scanners could not get a proper read. The girl's body temperature was slightly higher than normal, but her vital signs were irregular in ways the instruments could not explain. It was as if the child's body was made of something the machine could not measure. Her biology is unusual, the officer admitted. She might be dangerous or sick or both. We need to isolate her until we understand. The traveler shook his head. She's a child. She trusts me. You'll make her afraid if you take her. The officer frowned. That may be a risk we cannot take. The traveler looked down at her. Her small hand slid along his arm, barely touching, but it sent a strange warmth through him. Then we take the risk together, he said. The officer hesitated, then left, muttering that she would report the situation. The traveler closed his eyes briefly. He had faced danger before, but he had never felt responsible for someone so small and so helpless. Her species might have powers, might be dangerous, might be feared across star systems, but she was still a child. Hours passed. The ship rocked slightly as it adjusted course. Food dispensers in the cabin area whirred quietly. Outside, the hum of distant engines never stopped. The girl slept again, resting her head on the traveler's chest. Her small body seemed to grow heavier with each hour, as if exhaustion was dragging her deeper into an unknown world. Suddenly, the ship shivered violently. Alarms rang softly, not loud enough to cause panic, but enough to make the traveler tense. Red lights flashed briefly across the cabin panels. He held the girl closer. Something was wrong outside. Through the cabin's view screen, he could see shadows moving across the hull. Ships, dark and sleek, cutting through space like hunters. They did not hail. They did not announce. They attacked. The ship's defenses tried to respond automatically, but energy readings showed limited power. Shields blinked in warning. The traveler's heart pounded. He had faced pirates before, but never like this. The girl stirred in his arms. She opened her eyes, but this time they glowed faintly in the dim red lights. A small hum came from her throat, soft, almost like a whisper. The sound resonated with the cabin, and the approaching ship slowed for a moment. Their movements were cautious, as if sensing something they did not understand. The traveler froze, unsure what she was doing. He had never seen anything like it. Her small hand pressed against his chest, and a soft warmth spread through him. The glow in her eyes faded as quickly as it appeared, and the shadows outside hesitated. The automated defense systems seemed to pause, confused. The first wave of attackers fired, and the ship rocked. Panels sparked. A low hum of electricity filled the cabin. The girl's hand tightened on the traveler, and the warmth returned. The sparks outside dimmed. The attackers' movements became erratic. They retreated slightly, then stopped entirely. The ship's AI registered confusion in the enemy ship's energy signatures. Something about the child was affecting them, though no one could understand how. The traveler whispered to her, "It's okay. You're safe with me." The girl's small voice answered, a word in her language he could not understand, but it sounded like trust. He felt a strange calm as her glow faded. The attackers began to withdraw completely, leaving only the dark expanse of space behind. The cabin fell silent again. The ship's hum returned to normal. The traveler held the child, unsure of what had just happened. She slept again, exhausted from the brief surge of energy. He did not move. He did not dare. Outside, the stars were quiet once more, but he could not shake the feeling that something had changed. The small alien girl on his lap was no longer just a child. She was a force the universe had not expected. The medical officer returned cautiously, scanning the cabin. Her device still could not read the girl properly. I don't understand," she said softly. "She should not have done that." The traveler looked down.
"Neither do I," he said, "but she saved us."
Somehow she saved us. A subtle alert flashed in the ship's system again, unseen by human eyes. The AI marked the child as a high-priority anomaly, tracking every pulse, every movement, every breath. It did not speak, but it logged the event carefully. Something ancient, something powerful, something no human had ever encountered was on board. And the traveler held her, unaware of the eyes watching, the signals recording, and the questions forming in places far beyond the ship. Hours stretched into silence. The girl's breathing slowed, the traveler's arms ached, but he did not dare move. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly as if holding their breath. Inside, a small hand found his again, pressing lightly. He looked down and whispered, "We'll get through this." Together, a soft chime sounded from the cabin panel. It was a message from an unknown source, untraceable. The traveler glanced at it. It contained only one line: "Return her or face consequences you cannot survive." He looked at the sleeping child. She had no name, no origin, no weapon in her hand. And yet the words made his blood run cold. Whoever sent the message knew her power. Whoever they were, they feared what she could do if left in human hands. The girl stirred slightly, sensing tension in the traveler. She lifted her head for a moment, looking into his eyes. She whispered the same word she had said before. The meaning was simple, but powerful. Safe. Trust. Stay. The traveler clenched his jaw. He did not respond, but he did not back down. Whoever was sending threats, whoever was watching, they would not take her. Not while he was here. Another soft shiver ran through the ship as sensors outside picked up movement. New ships, not pirates this time. Sleek, fast, organized. Their weapons were silent, but the heat signatures told the story. They were coming closer, and this time they were not leaving. The traveler adjusted the girl on his lap, shielding her as best he could. He looked at the door, at the panels, at the dim red lights that flickered. The ship's AI hummed quietly, tracking every heartbeat. The small child stirred, sensing the approaching presence, and her hand glowed faintly, almost like a warning. The traveler's voice was steady. "Don't be afraid. Not yet." Outside, the unknown fleet paused at a distance. Inside, the cabin was small, warm, and full of fear, but also hope. The human traveler and the orphaned alien child shared something unspoken, a bond that neither attackers nor distance could break. And far beyond the stars, the first ships of the unknown fleet slowed, sensing something alive, something old, something waiting to be revealed. The universe had noticed them both. The ship moved cautiously through the silent stretch of space, its hull vibrating softly under the constant hum of the engines. The human traveler sat in the small cabin with the alien girl on his lap. Outside the viewports, the stars were sharp points of light, but the darkness between them felt alive. Something was watching, something that had waited a long time to see what the humans might do. The girl stirred in his arms. She opened her large dark eyes and looked at him, blinking slowly. Her hand touched his chest again, warm and soft. The traveler could feel the faint thrum of her heartbeat, unlike anything human. He had tried to measure it with devices, but the instruments refused to work. The child was a mystery, a puzzle the universe itself had left unsolved. The ship's AI whispered quietly through the cabin speakers, only audible to him. Unknown biological signatures continued to show irregular energy. Probability of anomalous capabilities is high. The traveler nodded. He did not fully understand the words, but he understood the meaning. She was not a normal child, and the universe knew it. Whoever had been following them, whoever had tried to stop them, had recognized that power. And now, there was more of it waiting ahead. Hours passed. The girl remained mostly asleep, though small twitches of her fingers hinted at awareness. The traveler kept her close, talking softly to keep her calm. He told her stories of places they had never visited, of stars that burned blue, of deserts of ice and seas of fire. She did not answer, but her eyes glimmered faintly whenever he spoke. Suddenly, the ship's alert system flared. Sensors detected multiple fast-moving objects converging on their path. These were not pirates. Their signals were clean, their movements precise, their intent clear. They were a fleet, ancient and controlled, moving with the kind of discipline only generations of war could produce. The ship shuddered lightly under the sudden energy pulses nearby. The traveler tightened his grip on the girl. "Stay close," he whispered. "No matter what comes, stay with me." Through the cabin's viewport, he saw the first ships of the fleet appear. Their sleek bodies reflected starlight in sharp lines. No weapons fired, no communication came. They were waiting, watching, calculating. The AI spoke again, calm and measured. "Unknown fleet is requesting the child. No weapons have been deployed yet. Probability of compliance demanded is high." The traveler frowned. Requesting? Or threatening? He held the girl closer. She shifted, sensing the tension in his voice. She whispered the same word she had said before, the word that meant trust and safety. Her voice was tiny, but it carried something heavier than any cannon. One of the fleet ships fired a single pulse of energy across space. It was not directed at the ship. It was a signal, a warning. The ship shivered, lights flickering. Every system hummed, recalibrating automatically. The traveler did not move. He could not. The girl rested her small head against his shoulder, her body glowing faintly under the stress. He felt it, the hum of energy, subtle but undeniable. She was alive in ways humans could not measure. The fleet's energy readings became chaotic. Their ships stopped advancing, hesitating for the first time in centuries. It was as if they recognized something they could not fight. Something powerful, but silent. Something alive. The traveler could feel the tension in the air, vibrating like a wire stretched too tight. And the girl slept, unmoving, unaware of how much she had already changed the outcome. A message arrived through the ship's comms, untraceable, cryptic. "Return her or face consequences beyond your comprehension." The traveler ignored it. He looked down at the girl. She had no words, no weapon, no plan. But she was not just a child. She was hope, fear, and power, wrapped in one fragile body. Whoever sent the message understood that. Whoever followed them understood it as well. And still she had chosen to rest in his arms. The ship continued moving through the jump lane. Energy signals from the fleet remained constant, watching, waiting. The traveler realized that compliance was not an option. They could demand, they could threaten, they could surround. But he had something the fleet had never accounted for: the trust of the child. Hours passed in silence. The girl stirred again, half awake. Her eyes glimmered faintly, showing patterns of light no human could read. She whispered the word again, barely audible: "Safe. Trust. Stay." The traveler nodded, understanding more than he should. Her small words carried more weight than fleets and weapons. They carried life. They carried choice. Outside, the fleet did not attack. They moved, careful and deliberate, keeping distance. The traveler realized they were learning. They were observing, trying to understand what he and the girl were together. And the longer they waited, the more dangerous their hesitation became. The AI spoke softly again. Probability of fleet retreat decreases with delay. Unknown variables increasing. Child's energy levels normalizing after previous output. Observation recommended. The traveler smiled faintly. Observation is all they'll get, he said. No one touches her. The girl moved in his lap, sensing his confidence. Her small hands rested on his chest. Her body was warm, alive, and strange. He could feel something in her pulse, something ancient, something older than the fleets themselves. She was not just a survivor. She was a guardian. And now she had chosen humans. The fleet paused at the edge of sensor range. The traveler could see faint lights flickering across their hulls. They were calculating, waiting for an opening. He understood what they were waiting for. They expected fear. They expected him to falter. But fear was gone. Only determination remained. The girl's voice came again, soft and insistent. Her glow flickered once, showing patterns of light that matched nothing the traveler had seen. He understood. She was ready if he were. He whispered, "Then we face it together." A faint pulse of energy ran through the ship, not dangerous, not violent, but noticeable. The fleet adjusted. Their signals wavered. Something in the universe had changed. Something alive and small, fragile and powerful, sat on his lap. And they had underestimated it. The traveler felt her grip tighten slightly. He nodded to her, silently telling her he understood. They were not alone in space. But for now, together, they had a chance. The stars outside remained bright, and the darkness seemed almost calm. But somewhere, deep within the fleet, decisions were being made. Calculations were being adjusted. The child was not theirs, and that simple fact was enough to shake centuries of planning. Hours passed. The girl slept again, faint glow fading. The traveler stayed awake, guarding her. Outside, the fleet remained, watching, waiting, calculating, and somewhere, far beyond them both, the first whispers of recognition spread through the galaxies. The humans had one who was more than she appeared, one who could not be measured or controlled. The traveler closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, he looked at the girl's peaceful face. He whispered softly, "We'll show them what we can do." Together, the glow in her eyes flickered in response, like a silent agreement. And far beyond the stars, the universe waited for what would come next. The first real move was yet to begin. The ship drifted slowly now, no longer rushing through the jump lane. The unknown fleet surrounded it at a careful distance, like hunters circling something they did not fully understand. Their ships were large and silent, dark shapes against the stars. They did not fire. They did not speak. They waited. Inside the small cabin, the human traveler sat very still. The alien girl rested against him, awake but quiet. Her eyes followed the faint lights outside the window. She did not seem afraid. If anything, she seemed calm, as if she had seen this moment before in some distant memory she could not explain. The ship's AI spoke again, its voice low and steady. Fleet formation stable, weapon systems charged but inactive. Communication channel open. The traveler took a slow breath. "They want her," he said quietly, "but they are afraid to take her." The girl turned her head slightly and looked up at him. Her eyes shimmered with faint light. She placed her hand on his arm, and the warmth returned. Not strong, not painful, just steady, like a promise A message appeared on the cabin screen. This time, it was clearer. Words formed in simple language, translated automatically. She does not belong to you. She is a remnant of an old war. Hand her over, and your species will be spared future harm. The traveler stared at the words. His jaw tightened. He looked down at the girl. She was small, light, a child who had slept on his lap because she had nowhere else to go. She belongs to herself, he said softly. And she chose to stay. The girl leaned closer, resting her head against his chest again. Her body glowed faintly, not bright, but steady, like a deep ember under ash. Another message followed, sharper this time. You do not understand what she is. She was made to end wars. She's not a weapon, the traveler replied aloud, even though no one could hear him directly. She's a survivor. Outside, the fleet shifted. One ship moved closer than the others. Its hull was larger, marked with symbols that looked old and worn. Energy readings spiked around it. The ship's AI detected a weapon system powering up, not a direct attack. Something worse. The AI spoke again. Energy signature detected. Planetary scale weapon. Charging sequence initiated. The traveler felt his chest tighten. They're bluffing, he whispered, though he was not sure. The girl lifted her head suddenly. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. Not wild, not angry. Focused. She stood up on his lap, small feet steady, as if gravity itself was listening to her. The warmth in the cabin increased. Panels hummed softly. The air felt thick, heavy with meaning. She reached out with one small hand toward the window. The traveler did not stop her. The glow spread, not outward like fire, but inward, folding space around her hand. The weapon's charge outside wavered. Energy readings became unstable. The massive ship hesitated. Then, something unexpected happened. The girl's eyes dimmed, and instead of more power, images filled the cabin. The traveler gasped. He saw a burning sky, a world in ruins, tall shapes falling from the air, breaking apart like glass. He saw the girl, much younger, hiding under broken stone. He saw humans, strangers, rough hands pulling her free, wrapping her in cloth, carrying her away from fire. The images spread beyond the cabin. Across the human ship, crew members froze as the same memories filled their minds. Engineers stopped working. Security officers lowered their weapons. Pilots held their breath. And beyond the ship, inside the fleet, commanders and observers saw it too. They saw humans shielding the child with their own bodies. They saw humans refusing to leave her behind even when escape was possible. They saw fear, pain, loss, and choice. The weapon ship's charge faltered. Confusion rippled through the fleet. Internal messages flashed between their ships. Arguments, warnings, fear. She is unstable, one voice insisted. She must be contained. She is bonded. Another replied. Interference may trigger defense response. She was never meant to choose, a third voice said. The traveler fell to his knees as the vision faded. The girl collapsed into his arms, exhausted. Her glow dimmed to almost nothing. She was breathing, but weak. She showed them, he whispered. She showed them the truth.
Outside, the fleet broke formation slightly.
The large weapon ship powered down halfway. Its energy field flickered, uncertain. A new message came through, slower now, less confident. You have altered her development. This was not expected. The traveler held the girl close, shielding her with his body. Good, he said, because what you expected was wrong. The silence stretched. Then one ship in the fleet did something dangerous. It powered its weapon again. Not fully. Not carefully. It forced energy through damaged systems, ignoring warnings. The charge spiked wildly. Alarms flared across both fleets. The ship's AI shouted a warning. Weapon instability detected. Potential uncontrolled discharge. The traveler looked up sharply. They're going to fire anyway. The girl stirred weakly. Her hand twitched, glowing faintly, but the glow flickered. She was too tired. Whatever she was still a child. She could not stop everything. Around the human ship, something strange happened. Engineers, pilots, and crew members moved without orders. Hands flew over controls. Systems rerouted power. Shields adjusted. Ships moved into protective positions. No one spoke. They did not need to. Human instinct took over. They did not run. They stood together. The traveler felt the ship shake as shields flared beyond normal limits. He felt heat, pressure, fear, but also resolve. He wrapped himself around the girl as the unstable weapon outside reached critical levels. The weapon fired, not a clean beam, not controlled. A storm of energy tore through space. The human ship's shields screamed under the impact. Power surged, panels cracked. The traveler was thrown backward, hitting the cabin wall hard. Pain exploded through his side. He did not let go. The girl cried out, not in fear, but in pain. Her glow flared once, wild and uncontrolled. Space itself bent for a moment. The energy storm twisted away from the ship, ripping into empty darkness instead. Owls. The weapon ship outside shattered, torn apart by its own power. Silence followed. The human ship drifted, damaged but alive. The fleet froze. No one fired. No one moved. Inside the cabin, the traveler lay on the floor, breathing hard. The girl lay against him, limp and silent. "Hey," he whispered, voice shaking. "Stay with me." No response. Medical teams rushed in. Moments later, they scanned her. Again, the devices failed. Her vital signs were faint but present. The traveler's injuries were serious, but not fatal. He refused treatment until they promised to watch her first. Hours passed. The fleet slowly pulled back. One by one, their ships retreated, keeping distance. A final message arrived, cold but changed. "We withdraw." This outcome was not foreseen. Humanity will be observed. The ship's AI logged the event quietly. Unknown fleet retreat confirmed. Threat reduced. Anomaly status unchanged. The traveler sat beside a medical bed now, holding the girl's hand. She had not woken yet. Her skin was cool, her glow gone. He leaned closer and whispered, "You don't have to fight anymore. I'm here." Her fingers twitched slightly around his. Outside the window, the stars were calm again, but the universe had shifted. The fleets had learned fear. The humans had learned unity. And a small alien child, born from war, lay sleeping among those who chose to protect her. Somewhere far away, ancient beings took notice, and they began to prepare. The ship moved slowly through damaged space, its engines running at reduced power. Scars from the recent battle marked its hull, but it was alive. Inside, lights were dimmed to save energy, and voices stayed low, as if the ship itself needed rest. Crew members moved carefully through the corridors, checking systems, helping the injured. and watching the quiet medical section with worried eyes. The alien girl lay on a small medical bed wrapped in soft fabric. Machines surrounded her, but none of them fully understood what they were seeing. Lines on screens flickered without pattern. Numbers rose and fell without reason. Still, one thing was clear. She was alive, but barely. Her breathing was slow and shallow, and the faint glow that once came from her skin was gone. The human traveler sat beside her bed, unmoving. His side was wrapped in bandages, and pain throbbed through his body, but he ignored it. His hand rested gently over hers. Her fingers were cool now, not warm like before. That frightened him more than any fleet or weapon ever could. Medical staff whispered behind him. They spoke of unknown biology, unstable energy loss, and limits they could not cross. One of them quietly suggested moving her to a sealed chamber for safety. The traveler turned slowly and looked at them, his eyes tired but firm. "No cages," he said. "She's not a thing." The doctors fell silent. No one argued. Hours passed, then more hours. The ship drifted through safe space, away from known routes. Word of the battle had already spread through hidden channels. Other human ships watched from afar, offering help but keeping distance. They did not know what to think. A child had bent a fleet to fear. A human had stood in front of her and refused to move. Inside the medical room, the traveler leaned closer to the girl. "You did enough," he whispered. "You don't need to protect anyone now." There was no response. The ship's AI monitored the room constantly. It compared current data to ancient records and found nothing useful. The girl's condition did not match any known pattern. She was not dying in a way science understood. She was simply fading, like a fire running out of fuel. Elsewhere on the ship, humans gathered quietly. Engineers, pilots, security officers, and passengers sat together, sharing food in silence. None of them had been ordered to do so. It happened naturally. They all felt the same pull, the same concern for the small being who had saved them without knowing what it meant. One engineer spoke softly. "She protected us. We can't just let her fade." A pilot nodded. "If she had been human, we would already know what to do." Another voice answered, calm and steady. "Then maybe we stop thinking of her as different." Slowly, a plan formed. Not a command. Not a rule. A choice. Power was redirected quietly. Not weapons. Not engines. Life systems. Comfort systems. Environmental controls. Small amounts from everywhere. Carefully balanced so nothing else failed. The ship's AI noticed but did not stop them. It calculated the risk and allowed it. In the medical room, the lights softened. The air warmed slightly. The traveler felt it first, a gentle change, like a calm breeze before dawn. The girl's fingers twitched. He held his breath. Her chest rose a little stronger than before. A faint glow returned beneath her skin, weak but real. Not a flare, not a defense, just life. The medical monitors flickered, confused but no longer alarming. One doctor leaned closer, eyes wide. "Something is stabilizing her," she whispered. The traveler closed his eyes briefly, relief washing over him. "She's not alone anymore," he said. Across the ship, systems adjusted again. Humans sat closer together. Some spoke softly to the walls, to the stars, to no one in particular. They did not know if she could hear them. They spoke anyway. "Rest," one voice said.
"You're safe," said another. "We're here," came many more.
In the medical room, the girl shifted slightly. Her breathing deepened. Color returned faintly to her face. The glow under her skin pulsed once, then settled into a steady rhythm. The traveler laughed quietly, a sound halfway to a sob. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "That's it," he whispered. "Just breathe." For a time, peace returned. But the universe was not finished. The ship's long-range sensors detected movement far away. Not the fleet from before, something older, larger. Signals that did not move like ships, but like living things. The AI flagged it quietly, unsure whether to alert the crew. In the medical room, the girl's eyes opened slowly. The traveler froze. "Hey!" he said softly. "Easy." Her eyes were different now. Still dark, but deeper. Clearer. She looked at him, truly looked, as if seeing him for the first time. She did not glow. She did not project anything. She simply watched him. Then she smiled. It was small, weak, but real. A soft sound escaped her lips, not a word this time, but a feeling. Relief, gratitude, belonging. Tears blurred the traveler's vision. "Welcome back," he said. She squeezed his hand gently. The doctors stepped back, stunned. "She recovered," one whispered. "But how?" The traveler did not answer. He knew, even if he could not explain it. She was not fueled by power alone. She was shaped by care, by choice, by people who stood together without orders. Outside the ship, distant shapes shifted in the dark. The unknown watchers adjusted their position, observing carefully. They had seen weapons. They had seen fleets. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had never seen this. A species that protected without control, that stood together without command, that turned a living weapon into a child simply by refusing to let go. Inside the medical room, the girl sat up slowly with help. She looked around, curious but calm. Machines. Humans. Light. She reached out and touched the bed, the wall, the air. Everything felt different now. She looked back at the traveler and made a new sound, not the old word. A new one, simple, soft. He did not understand the sound, but he understood the meaning. He nodded. "Yeah?" he said. "I think so too." The ship continued its slow journey forward, carrying scars, stories, and a quiet miracle. But far beyond its hull, the universe had shifted its focus. Ancient observers drew closer. They were no longer asking what the child was. They were asking what humanity had become, and they were not sure how to respond. The ship moved quietly through open space, its damaged hull patched in places but holding strong. The stars outside were sharp points of light, shining cold and distant. Inside, the crew worked steadily but without urgency. The battle was over. The fleet had withdrawn. The child who had caused so much fear now rested quietly, small and fragile in the human traveler's arms. Days passed. The girl slept for long stretches, waking only briefly to eat or drink. Each time she opened her eyes, she looked at the humans around her as if remembering something she had almost forgotten. Slowly, she began to respond to gentle voices, faint gestures, and the soft presence of those who cared for her. The traveler never left her side. His injuries had mostly healed, but he moved carefully, keeping one hand near her at all times. He had learned to understand her subtle movements, the way her small fingers twitched when she sensed danger, the way her eyes brightened when she felt safe. They had become more than protector and child. They were companions, bound in silence and shared experience. The crew slowly returned to normal routines. but the atmosphere remained different. Something had shifted. The humans aboard the ship no longer saw themselves as separate from the small alien girl. They saw her as part of them, part of a story that stretched far beyond the stars. Engineers whispered to each other about ways to improve her comfort. Pilots volunteered to take her on short observation trips, letting her see the universe from above the hull. Security officers no longer feared her. Instead, they watched respectfully, ready to protect if necessary. One evening, the girl awoke fully, stretching slowly. Her eyes were clear and bright. She looked around the cabin and then at the traveler. Her hand found his, resting gently. She made a sound, not a word, but soft and warm. He leaned close. "I'm here," he said, voice calm. "We're safe now." She blinked and then did something unexpected. She laughed, a soft, musical sound that filled the small room. The traveler's chest ached with relief. It was a small moment, but it meant everything. She had survived. She was no longer afraid. And she had chosen to stay with them. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Unknown fleets had seen her power, but they had learned something else as well. Humans were not like other species. They protected, they cared, and they stood together in ways that even the oldest watchers had not expected. The galaxy had noticed, and its gaze shifted slowly toward humanity. Curious, cautious, and respectful. The girl rose slowly, stepping from the traveler's lap. She moved carefully, testing her strength. Her small body had been weakened by the energy she had released during the fleet encounter, but now it pulsed with quiet life. She touched the walls, the controls, the soft lights. Everything was new, and she observed it all with childlike wonder. The traveler followed her slowly, careful not to startle her. "Take your time," he said. "There's no rush." The girl looked back at him and smiled again. That smile held trust, warmth, and understanding far beyond her years. She reached out a small hand, and he took it. Together, they walked through the corridors. Crew members gave them space, moving aside silently, their faces showing respect and awe. In the command room, reports arrived from distant observers. Ships from other human colonies, star stations, and exploratory fleets recorded what had happened. Tales of the child's power, her ability to protect and inspire, spread slowly. Some called her a miracle. Others called her a warning. But all agreed on one thing: she was alive, and she was part of humanity now. The girl paused by a viewport, looking out at the endless dark. She raised her small hand and touched the glass. Stars reflected in her eyes, and for the first time the traveler noticed a quiet calm settle over her. She was not alone anymore. She was safe. And she had chosen this life. The traveler joined her, resting a hand lightly on her shoulder. You're going to see more worlds," he said softly. "You'll meet others, like you someday. But for now, you're here." The girl tilted her head, observing him. Then, without warning, she whispered a word in her own language. It meant safe, belonging, home. The traveler smiled, though he did not understand all of it. He understood enough. "Home," he said softly. "Yes." Home. Outside the ship, far in the shadows between stars, ancient beings stirred. They had been watching. They had calculated, measured, and judged. They had seen fleets bow in fear, weapons falter, and humans rise together. And now they saw something new, a species that could inspire power, change the course of war, and protect what was small and fragile simply by standing together. The watchers whispered among themselves. They debated whether to intervene, whether to wait, whether humanity was ready. None of their centuries of planning had prepared them for what they were seeing. One small alien girl had changed everything. Back on the ship, the girl turned to the traveler and spoke again, this time in a faint, clear sound that could almost be understood. She reached out, resting her hand over his heart. He felt a warmth spread, not dangerous, not overwhelming, but quiet and profound. "You're safe," he said again, "and you always will be." The girl's small eyes glimmered, reflecting the stars outside. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a guardian, a witness, and a promise of something greater. She would not fight alone. She would not fear alone. She would grow among those who chose to protect her, and in doing so, she would teach humanity a power beyond weapons and fleets, the power of trust, unity, and choice. The ship continued its journey, carrying its scars, its stories, and its quiet miracle. Far beyond, the universe had taken note. Ancient watchers, fleets, and distant civilizations now watched humanity more closely. They did not yet understand the full meaning of what had happened, but they sensed it. They sensed that humanity had changed. The traveler watched the girl as she moved through the cabin, exploring slowly, curious and careful. She paused, turned, and looked at him. Her eyes held a question, a promise, and a spark of life that no one could take away. "We'll keep going," he said softly. "Together." She nodded, small and determined, and the stars outside seemed to shine just a little brighter in acknowledgement. Somewhere, deep in the vastness of space, ancient beings began preparing for first contact with humans. They would come not as enemies, not yet as allies, but as observers. And when they did, they would find a species unlike any other. Humans, who protected what was small, fragile, and powerful, and had been changed forever by an orphaned alien girl who fell asleep on a human traveler's lap. The ship glided forward, quiet and steady, carrying hope, wonder, and a small spark of the extraordinary into the endless night. The universe waited, and for the first time, humanity was ready to be noticed.